Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. Breaking news. This just came in. We've been live discussing it, but I wanted to give you a recap of all that we've learned because, yes, we broke the news and we got the exclusive documents. Thank you to attorney John Witherspoon. Stepped up like crazy. He has been watching this case like a hawk. And yes, the judge in the case against regarding the Heritage Foundation versus Department of Homeland Security, the case that is prompting whether Prince Harry will have to be deported or throw up his immigration papers, his visas, etc. The judge has now come forward and acknowledged that he needs to see the documents himself. This is something he was avoiding doing because he wanted to remain unbiased and basically try to decide on this case on the merits of sort of how the law goes. But he's paying so much attention and he's taking this so seriously that he's now come around and said, no, this is too much. I need to see the documents. And he wants to see them to make sure, one, is there something embarrassing in them that actually should be protected and shouldn't be released? Was there something on there that wasn't declared that should be? Was there some sort of cover up on the behalf of Prince Harry? There's now a lot of things that this judge is going to be able to see. He's going to be looking at this in camera is what it means. Judge term basically means in his quarters to himself privately. So this won't get released publicly, but both sides have agreed previously, and now they're going to have to give over these documents that they have. The Department of Homeland Security will have to show what they got from Harry, what he said, and why they are trying to fight for its privacy. This is a big deal, as John's been declaring, because, yeah, it shows the seriousness of the judge. It shows that there is actually a legitimate chance now that if Harry was proven to be a liar on there or didn't and got special treatment, why did that happen? The judge learned of these sort of red flags that he was bringing up in the case that John broke down. But I wanted to give you sort of the overcap of what's actually happening. And now that we've gotten this document, read through it once more time. So John, I'm going to go through this. We also have Bedina here. It's Kim. We're going to go through everybody. I appreciate you guys all being here. But just to give all these viewers, we got almost 8,000 people here. I wanted to give you all a recap again as to where we stand and a quick read through. So basically this document, John, correct me or pop in if I'm doing anything improper here, and then I'm going to turn over to you. Pending the court in this case under Freedom of Information Act, the parties' motions for summary judgment, see generally defendants mot for summary, yada, 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 a lot of stuff. Decision to withhold responsive records under FOIE exemptions. Department of Homeland Security submitted 3 declarations explaining its search methodology and justification for withholding the records. See more legal stuff. FOIA authorizes the court to review declarations and or contested records in camera, which means in private, guys, to determine whether such records or any part thereof shall be withheld under any of the exemptions contained within the statute. In-camera inspection may be particularly appropriate when agency affidavits are insufficiently detailed to permit meaningful review of exemption claims, when the number of withheld documents is relatively small, and when the dispute turns on the contents of the withheld documents and not the party's interpretation of those documents. Having reviewed the parties' written submissions and heard oral argument on the motions, the court concludes that in-camera review is necessary to determine whether the records in dispute come within the scope of the claimed exemptions. It is therefore ordered that on or before March 21st, it's in a couple weeks, guys, defendant, Department of Homeland Security, on behalf of Prince Harry, shall submit to the court in camera a declaration or declarations that detail with particularity the records it is withholding and the particular harm that would arise from public disclosure of them. Defendant may supplement in declarations with any materials it deems appropriate. Defendant shall contact the court to determine the preferred method of delivery and arrangements for returning the materials once the court concludes. So there it is, the judge deciding we need it. And I can't decide otherwise. We need to do this. Now, going to you first, John, as we've talked and sort of summarizing this more quickly for the audience to sort of get a rundown. If you want to watch the full coverage, we've gone into so much more detail. You can join, become a member on our Patreon or here in the channel, and you'll get the full stream that gives you all those details. But John, a quick rundown again. Why is this such a big deal? This is clearly the court taking it seriously, but should Harry be nervous?
Well, sure. Anytime you're the subject, either directly or indirectly, of a federal lawsuit, yeah, it's got to be something that weighs on your mind. Or at least it would be for most normal people. The real significance here, I think, is, from my perspective, is that it's not so much that the judge is asking for this document. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is important that he is asking for these documents from Homeland Security. But what he is not doing is saying, that's okay. I've seen everything I need to see. No, nothing here. let's wrap this up, and I'll give you an opinion, and we'll move on and get this off my desk. It is a case where he is saying, all right, I'm not done yet, and I'm going to dig a little deeper. I want to see these files. I think what he's really doing, I think the really interesting thing is that you've got the files on one hand, and then you've got this fence of privacy about the files. And then on the other hand, you've got all this other stuff that's out there that the average Joe does not have or would not have in a similar case, by which I mean the book, the 60 Minutes interview, the interview with, that was the paywalled interview with Dr. Mate or whatever his name was. You've got all of this stuff that's out there that's hanging over. And I think what the judge is really doing is he's saying, okay, you got all this stuff here that he's made public, and then you've got the stuff in this file, particularly as pertains to his drug use. What happens if we tear down that fence, of that privacy fence, and allow this stuff out, to get out into the wild? How big a deal is that going to be, given the fact that there's all this other stuff that's out there that he's already made public himself, in spite of his...
Sorry, but is it your assertion then that you think that if what's on these visa documents, immigration documents, whatever, actually matches what he's already sort of said in the book, do you think that's more of an inclination that the judge would then say, this isn't private, that we don't need this to be private, you've already shared it, and therefore bring it out? What do you think happens then?
I don't want to speculate on that, because I don't know.
But it's possible.
It's possible. Yeah, it is possible. It's possible. By the way, in some of the past videos that people have asked in the comments and in the chat, does the judge have access to all of these interviews, including the one that was the pay-per-view interview where you got the free book, and the 60 Minutes and everything else? Yes. The answer is yes. Heritage Foundation has left no stone unturned in terms of putting all this stuff in front of the judge and saying, hey, here it is. So there's no question that they have been very thorough about making their case about why this file should be made public.
So he's going to be able to see these documents in private, which is the way it should be, that we won't, but he's going to be able to see what actually was filed. And so what that means is Harry either, there's a few options, right? Harry might have been honest in his forms, and those things could not be publicly known. That's one option, right? In which case there would be an exempt of privacy, I imagine. Now, why he was able to get in will be a question that I think the Heritage Foundation is really trying to ask. Well, why was he in if there were things in there that he, put as usage? Or he revealed what was in the book and the things we already know, and he was honest. He either put that there or he didn't. If he put it there and we've already seen it, then obviously the we want privacy of it matter kind of doesn't matter, which puts us in an interesting position, because now the judge will know whether this really should be private or not. If he didn't put those things there, and now he sees the Heritage Foundation's whole book and examples of the things Harry has copped to, I imagine that's also not going to help Harry. So in any of these scenarios, it really does feel like Harry's potentially screwed, no?
If the file is made public, there's really no good path to the exit for Harry. He either lied, or he told the truth and he was given some special consideration. I think if I had to guess, I would say that that's probably going to enter the judge's calculus a little bit too. Judge is going to say, well, interesting situation here that he's put himself in. And, the public has a right to be curious about it, because the book, 60 Minutes, pay-per-view, blah, blah, blah. It's all there. And not only does that diminish, in theory, his right to privacy, because he's already waived it through his own actions, but it also increases the public's interest in knowing about all this stuff. So that's what makes it I would say fun case. It is a fun case, but it's also really interesting.
Well, and let's also just reiterate, like, everybody deserves the right to privacy on these forms. And that's why this case has been so serious, regardless of your feelings on Harry. We all should want the protection of our immigration forms more than our hatred of any one person. So that's why this case has always been a bit more important. But the Heritage Foundation has made it clear this isn't about Harry. This is just one example of why would he get special treatment? Did he get special treatment? That's really what this case is about, guys. So everybody sort of been, I think, looking at this like, oh, this is dumb, clickbait, nonsense. Everyone just wants them deported. No, this is a genuine concern. And there's a lot of celebrities that have been deported. We're talking Kate Moss, Amy Winehouse, a lot of celebrities have been removed from country due to not stating their usages, etc. Now, as we also talked about in our stream, John, you can reaffirm, even if he lied, even if he did these things, yes, he may get deported or whatever for a period of time, but there would be a path for him to get it back, just like many others have done, as we all should have a path to it. But this wouldn't be the above all end of Harry ever coming back to the States, even in a worst case scenario, correct?
I think you're right. Yeah, I don't see him being permanently banned from entering the United States. But they could easily say, "Hey, look, you go back to wherever and marinate on this for a little bit, and then come talk to us again. We'll reconsider. We'll hear you out." But we're not going to do that right now.
You gave a really good path to, like, he should have some sort of finally just to own this, apologize, like, take that path. And I agree, if there was a version of this where he's like, guys, yeah, no, I just didn't really think I needed to do it. I made that mistake. I feel embarrassed. I didn't think it would go this far. I thought everybody did. I was wrong. Let me be an example. I would like to do the right thing. There's a way for him to look good in this, actually, weirdly, if he would just take accountability. But it seems like this duo never wants to do that. Any other thoughts to add?
Well, you're absolutely right. And as I mentioned a minute ago, there's a huge list of celebrities, and professional athletes and everybody else who've gotten their tail in a crack and have been, no pun intended, royally humiliated for cheating on their wife, or driving while intoxicated, or Mel Gibson, the stuff that he told to the sheriff's deputy out in California that were, his very anti-Semitic, awful comments. Again, the key to it is, as is so often the case, and again, this is part of what the advice involves, if you're an attorney, is to say, look, it's give you another example, the Sam Bankman-Fried case up in New York City, which is going to be, he's going to be sent. Sam Bankman-Fried is the FTX guy, cryptocurrency, who basically took a lot of people's money that he shouldn't have done things with. He's going to be sentenced on the 28th up in New York. He has refused to say, I screwed up and I apologize. He has been defiant. I guarantee you that will profoundly affect the jail sentence that he gets. The same thing is true of, as I said, celebrities, Tiger Woods,
Amber Heard,
Reese Witherspoon. What's that?
Amber Heard refuses to take accountability.
Yes,
all of this hurts their
absolutely.
recovery or their path to redemption. I 100% agree. And it seems like these two just won't do it.
And it's the universal. The reason it's so powerful is that it's basically a universal thing that, anybody who screws up and apologizes for it to you, you can't help but feel this, differently and feel a little bit kinder toward that person. And Harry has done some really reprehensible things. And I as we've talked about, I think the fault of this one's wife, who has been telling him what to do and leading him around, on a leash. And he's not what I would call an original thinker. I don't think he's the type of person that when she tells him, hey, go do this, or you should file a lawsuit, I don't think he's the type of person that says, well, wait a minute, let's think this through. I think he just kind of reflexively says, okay, yeah, that's a good idea, let's do it. And then you end up in the mess that you're in right now. So, there's a path to the exit for anybody like that. Anybody.
But
that's why
he's
we have
in the
parole
mess.
boards. That's why we have parole boards.
Yeah.
And in this case, he is absolutely defiant, and it's like talking to a brick wall. You can just tell. I'm sure there are people who are telling him. I'm sure that when his brother was still talking with him,
he would have never
sure
let this happen.
Yeah, and I'm sure his dad would have said, "Look, hey, pull yourself together."
There's no one there to do it. There's no one there to do it.
It's sad, and it's a mental health issue. As I said, it is, talking about this before. It is a type of thing where somebody ought to say to him, "Hey, even if you're in therapy, it ain't working. You need to change your therapist, and you need to find somebody who can bang you over the head." Really. I mean, there are different types of therapists, and somebody ought to go to him and say, "Look, your therapist is not getting the job done. You need to go, quit
I want to open up the
all
panel. I want to get, so Pidina, now you have the full on recap. Do you think, before I even get to your thoughts, like, if Harry had done this with the proper apology and owned it, do you think he would have gotten some forgiveness? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think maybe if he would have come in when he had these interviews and he talked about the things in his book, he could have talked about this, coming into the United States on a false pretense of saying perhaps, no, he did not check that he had taken any drugs, or maybe saying that he did, to just be open and honest since he had planned to write the book. I think I agree with you that coming to people and saying that you're sorry is a much better way than lying and trying to avoid it, because then you just look shady. You don't look trustworthy. You look like you're hiding something, you're getting special treatment. And people don't like those kind of people. People like people who are fallible, who make mistakes and want to own them and get redemption. But I had another question though. What would Harry's attorneys have as a recourse if the judge were to, want to come out and talk about what is in these documents? Would his attorneys have any recourse?
That's a good question. Can they stop it, John?
Well, that's an interesting question, because Harry's not a party to the case. This is the plaintiff as Heritage Foundation, defendant is United States government, Department of Homeland Security, and that puts Harry and his personal legal team in a difficult position, because really what the judge is looking at is Harry's privacy versus the public interest, and Harry's just not in that mix in a direct way.
Well, there we go. The show's wrapped up. What a show it was. If you want to see the full show, become a member over on our Patreon or here on YouTube, and you'll get the full streams, usually the next day, or if not, the night of. Make sure to support all these amazing people. John will be back with his social links, but meanwhile, just send him some virtual love. But check out Pidina over on YouTube. Support her. You can subscribe to her channel. Where is it? Here it is. As well as it's Kim, Steph the Alter Nerd, Popcorn Palace. These are your destinations to go to get more royalty and pop culture news. Appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for all being here. Watch the whole show and stay tuned to all these lovely people and their content. Make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. Hit the button and the bell so you get notified, and smash that thumbs up for the engagement. And tell us what you think in the comments. It always helps. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with more content. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. What do you think? Tell us down below.